Emergency live show tonight. Emergency live show, ladies and gentlemen. And that is because what started yesterday as some rumor is now very real. BYU head coach Kalani Sitake absolutely could be on the way to Penn State. It appears that there is a legitimate offer on the table, perhaps now a counteroffer from BYU. And oh, by the way, as the Cougars prepare for arguably the biggest game in school history this weekend against Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship game, there is now this to think about. All the latest coming up on the show here today, what Kalani Sitake had to say on the Big 12 championship game press conference earlier today, the latest reporting on all of this, one insider in particular, plus even, On3 Football Scoop, they have joined in now saying that Kalani Sitake is definitely the number one target for Penn State at this point. So it's real. It's absolutely real. Welcome into the show tonight. This is the Open for Business Big 12 podcast. I am your host, John Kurtz. Thank you for joining me here. It is the best Big 12 podcast on planet Earth. Thank you to all of you who make it that. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel as you file in. I appreciate everybody for doing that. Lots of great ways to support the channel. You can, look, if you are an Open for Business Big 12 newsletter subscriber, you've already got some of the info and some of the takes that I'm about to give you in your inbox. OFBnews.com, or click the link in the description of the video to get that. OFBnews.com. Once again, 5,500 plus Big 12 fans who are subscribed. That many people can't be wrong about anything, my friends. Fill up the chat. I'm guessing this one will get lively. It's been lively today on Twitter. If you want to make the show tonight, guarantee you make the show tonight, click the $ below the chat box. In order to do that, also on Venmo, John-Kurtz-4, if you want to hit me up with a question or comment there, I will kick off the next live show with it. I believe I got one of those. I'm going to check it here real quick. I may hold off until tomorrow if it's related to the playoff rankings, because, look, there's plenty to talk about when it comes to the playoff rankings and BYU and where they are at right now. But tonight we are talking about Kalani Sitake. So, Dakota, I see your Venmo contribution and question. I promise I will get to that tomorrow on the live show about the playoff rankings. But for now, we've got to focus in on Kalani Sitake, man. This day, it's been kind of crazy. It's been kind of crazy, if I'm being completely honest. Because things did not start out where I was expecting this to catch fire the way that it did. Last night when I did the live show, it seemed like, okay, there might be a little something to this, but nothing that's going to expound that quickly with BYU on the precipice of playing this massive, massive game. But my friends, it changed very quickly. The first sign to me was that I went and watched Josh Pate's show last night, and he actually spoke about it. And I know that he's not the type of guy that is going to say something about something like this if there's not some legitimate legs to it. So let me just kind of recap to you. I'm going to start by if there's anybody out there that has doubt as to the legitimacy of this, I guess let's go ahead and just squash that right away. Here's On3, okay? Probably the most mainstream of any of the outlets to talk about this right now. On3, Brett McMurphy, Chris Lowe, and Pete Nakos. Holy trinity of college football reporting right there. Say BYU head coach Kalani Sitake has emerged as Penn State's top target to be the Nittany Lions' next coach. Sources tell Brett McMurphy, Chris Lowe, and Pete Nakos. The two sides have had extensive conversations in recent weeks. Sources have told On3 that the Nittany Lions have laid out a plan to provide top-end resources in NIL and salary pool. Penn State Athletic Director Pat Kraft fired James Franklin October 12th. All right. Sources have told On3 that the Nittany Lions have made clear to Sitake they will offer a lucrative salary pool, including defensive coordinator Jay Hill. That would be a big sticking point. I've seen a lot of BYU fans wonder and speculate whether or not Jay Hill would be perhaps the next head coach at BYU if Kalani Sitake were to leave. So that is something to consider there. I would say that that's pretty much it as far as substantive info from this On3 article. Now, if you read the Football Scoop article, you're going to get a little bit more in-depth. Football Scoop is generally very, very good when it comes to coaching news. Perhaps just with different sourcing, that they will take some different routes and different angles on stories than you might get from like an On3. So I'll just read you some of this. They just start right out with the talks are real. The position has been discussed multiple times. So too have loose parameters of a contract offer. Penn State and Kalani Sitake are continuing to discuss the Nittany Lions head football coaching vacancy. Goes through the complicating matters, the fact that they're playing in the Big 12 championship game this week, but it says still the two sides, per numerous sources, have engaged in more and more conversations the past 10 days as the Nittany Lions search has wound a circuitous route. From speaking with a source deeply connected to the Penn State's search and with ties to all level of the sport, Football Scoop can share talks between Penn State and Kalani Sitake are very real. Quote, anyone who understands football can turn on tape and see tremendous schematics in all three phases. The question will be assembling a staff that can recruit to the Northeast. But as we all know, the bigger rev share and NIL, that mitigates the risk to some degree. Additionally, 3 different agents, all from different companies, told Football Scoop over the weekend and into Monday morning that the talks are real. One source said, quote, I think it's real, but is it all for leverage? Why leave BYU, your school, as well as your church when you have it rolling now better than ever? But, and this is a key point, Football Scoop hits on this. This was, I got to be honest, I didn't even realize this until going through this whole exercise with the news about Sitake. Man, Kalani Sitake is only paid $3 million a year. I guess Football Scoop says in the $3 million range. I read a story in the Salt Lake Tribune earlier that pegged it basically right at $3 million, which Brent Brennan from Arizona was the only Big 12 coach this year who made less. I mean, that is... Yeah, we'll get to what some of the rumors are of what Penn State is offering. But, we're talking guys like being paid to win 11 games a year in college football and go to the playoff. Guys like that are making upwards of like $8, $9, $10 million. We're talking like tripling at least Kalani Sitake's salary here. The guy's making $3 million. That is crazy, man. That is not competitive. Not competitive. James Franklin was making $8.5 million. I guess if that gives you a bit of an idea there. There's typically a tax if you're a new coach being hired here. I would imagine the offer would be even more than that from Penn State. Again, we'll get to those numbers. The Football Scoop article said nothing about this is a done deal at this point, but it is advanced enough that potential staff composition has been a topic, and sources indicated Sitake is strongly considering staff options should they come to an agreement. Okay, so there's your Football Scoop article. That was the info from that. Okay, now the last one here, it's nothing against this gentleman at all. I just know that, On3, Football Scoop, those are reputable enough that like your average casual fan is going to recognize that and be like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Well, here's this. Liam, and I apologize, Liam, if I'm saying your last name incorrectly. Liam Blutman, Barstool Sports. All I know is that this dude has been nails, absolute nails on the coaching carousel. This guy seems to have great info, and so that's why I'm going to share some of this. Like he's got my attention. I am paying attention to what he is saying about this. So let's go ahead and open this up. I'll make this easier for you guys to read real quick. All right. So he's been all over the place. At one point, there was word of an emergency team meeting for BYU. So we're going to start here. He says BYU's emergency team meeting today was canceled as Sitake has spent time today visiting with prominent members of BYU's football family that include the widow of Lavelle Edwards. Now, he clarified this later. It said BYU has gone to the church asking for more money. He kind of clarified that comment later, but said BYU is trying hard to make this miracle happen and has gone above the athletic director in doing so. Earlier, he said, barring a miracle, it would be Kalani Sitake to Penn State. And so that's what he's referencing there with the miracle. But now he has put on the table some of the supposed terms of BYU's counter to Kalani Sitake. BYU's offer to Kalani Sitake would make him the Big 12's highest paid coach. That's quite a bit different than only being paid more than Brent Brennan, right? An aggressive NIL budget that would get BYU close to Texas Tech. Again, Sitake badly wants to compete for the national title and college football playoff rankings. Sliding BYU have mattered deeply to him. So that is very interesting. I want to focus in on some of this for a minute because I was thinking here, all of this is happening as Kalani Sitake is about to go up against that Texas Tech roster once again. That's the only roster this year that's been good enough to beat his team. And it's really the only roster that's been good enough the last 2 years to just thump his team. And clearly, Texas Tech's got an NIL spend above everybody else in the Big 12. So I started to wonder, like, hey, how much is that mattering to him right now? That is this kind of apropos that that's who he's about to play here as he's negotiating with Penn State, a place that would be able to get him top-notch NIL. I think we get lulled to sleep on this a bit because Kalani Sitake is such a focused human being and such a good human being that he doesn't get into the weeds of like fighting for his team. He kind of halfway sort of today made the case for BYU on the Big 12 championship game press conference, but not crazy in depth. And he generally turns down the opportunity to do that both last year and this year. That's just not his personality. But that doesn't mean just because we see that, that doesn't mean that he's not somebody who deeply cares about that and wants to win a national championship and wants to have the necessary resources to be able to go out and do that. He obviously is an ultimate competitor too. Just with the amount of success that he's had, you cannot do that without being a total competitor at the highest level. So I will admit, even for me, it was, I got deceptively lulled to sleep a little bit there where I was like, hey, Kalani just wants to go out and do his thing, doesn't care about the rankings. Look, we're putting faith in what Liam is saying here, but what I'm telling you is just that would make a lot of sense to me. Hearing that makes a lot of sense to me, that that's something that Kalani Sitake would deeply care about, and that's what maybe a lot of this is about, okay? Having said that, I think the counter to that is this is something I wrote about in the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter earlier today. So again, ofbnews.com to get subscribed to that. But this is where you can, if you want to spin zone this, you can say, hey, if BYU does pull this off, I mean, it's obviously going to take a ton of money, but if BYU does pull this off, this could be a huge blessing in disguise for the BYU football program. Like if you're a BYU fan right now, this could be a huge blessing in disguise because it seems clear now Kalani Sitake has the leverage to get whatever financial resources out of BYU that he would deem necessary if he's going to stay there, right? Like at this point, it seems like Kalani Sitake as a head coach is going to have the NIL resources that he desires to compete at the highest level. It's either going to be at Penn State or BYU matches it and it's going to be at BYU. And if you're a BYU fan, that could be great. I know it's like high risk, high reward here, but that could be totally great if that happens. And BYU has now gotten a kind of a warning shot and had to get all of its ducks in a row to make sure that they're funding an elite NIL roster here. That could be an awesome thing for the program, which, by the way, right now already is recruiting at a near top 25 level. If you go look at On3 right now, the 2026 class is ranked 26th in the country. We all know about Ryder Lions, but there's more to it than just that. That's a really recruiting class. If you infuse even more money there, I mean, we've seen what can happen, right? BYU basketball, AJ DeMonsta, like you got the number one recruit in the country in hoops. What could happen with football with that kind of commitment and resource behind it? I also wonder, too, what this would do to an assistant salary pool for Kalani Sitake. I'm sure that's a part of the negotiations going on here, too. I don't know, what changes would need to be made immediately or if it's a matter of like hanging on to a Jay Hill or Aaron Roderick. If they're going to be more sought after this offseason after all the success that this team has had, would not shock me at all, right? I mean, Jay Hill's a former head coach, would stand to reason that there would be a lot of interest there in him at some point, at some level in becoming a head coach. So I think all of these things can be huge blessings to BYU football if the package is enough for Sitake to stick around. I mean, I got to be honest. I'm trying to give you most of this like from an objective standpoint. if I just remove that and say, like, hey, me as a person, me as a human, I love Kalani Sitake. Incredibly genuine, nice guy that I've had the chance to talk to a couple times at Big 12 Media Days. Just very, very likable guy, man. And I've had a chance to see, some of like the testimony that he has shared and just the life wisdom that he has shared in that. And I just think, like, man, he's the type of guy that just like makes me want to be a better human. And so having him lead one of the biggest Big 12 institutions that's in the league and get a chance to watch him do his thing, chat with him every once in a blue moon, once a year, like I will deeply miss that if he goes to Penn State. I can't begrudge him. I totally understand where he would be coming from for that. Not just, this isn't just about the finances, even if it is a bit of a financial, if the financial package at Penn State would be a little bit more than BYU. Look at how his team has been treated. Like, BYU fans, we've all been fighting this fight for the last couple of weeks. If he had this resume at Penn State, the discussion would be, are they a top 4 seed? Do they get a bye? It would not be, are they in the field? Most likely not. And that's just a harsh reality about where we are at in the sport right now. So unfortunately, this is in some ways a bit of a referendum on the Big 12 too, which sucks. I mean, that sucks. So for that reason too, yes, I definitely hope that he stays. If I'm taking objectivity out of it, I've got a lot of skin in the game thinking I really hope that this guy sticks around BYU. And the other part of it is I just feel terrible for BYU fans that you're having to deal with this on the eve of arguably the biggest game in school history, right? I mean, it is such a bummer. It is such a bummer. And I felt the same way, honestly, for Ole Miss fans with the Lane Kiffin thing. I really did. Even though Ole Miss fans had to sort of know the bill was coming due for that at some point with Lane Kiffin based on his past history. But I still felt bad for them. This isn't quite as bad, but even if you handle it as well as Kalani Sitake has, which all those articles indicated talks have been going on for weeks here and nothing has gotten out, you handle it as well as you possibly can, it still can leak out and it still can inevitably be a distraction. Now, Kalani Sitake said that he talked to the team about it. I can go ahead and play you that clip. He got asked on the Big 12, crazy timing, right? All this starts to break right before Kalani Sitake, Joey McGuire, and Brett Yormark are all on a joint press conference today for the Big 12 championship game. Sitake was asked about the job a couple of times and whether or not he would address with the team the rumors that are out there right now, and this is what he said.
Because it's the world is small now, and people can see stuff on social media and everything, and you guys do a great job at covering things, and so yeah, I'll address it. But I also, they're used to me saying, "Hey, this is a good sign," that things are going well for us. But I will say that this isn't about me. What I've asked our team to do is to be focused on what we're trying to accomplish. There are marks of finishers, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to finish the season the right way and get after it. And it's required of us to be at our best to play against Texas Tech. So as we go through this week and go through the prep, I also want them to live through all the moments and have the great experience and not waste a moment thinking about anything else. So I've asked our team to be focused on what we can control, and that's right now we can control what we're doing as a team and not worry about all the distraction. This is a great distraction to have, let's be honest. But right now we need to be focused on making sure that we're giving our best shot in this game against Texas Tech.
All right, so that's how Kalani Sitake chose to handle it earlier. He was then asked specifically, like point blank after that, like, hey, the Penn State job, Football Scoop reported the Penn State job, and Kalani's answer was, I feel like I already addressed that. I'll give you the specific quote. I tweeted out the specific quote here earlier today. And shout out to Mitch Harper, by the way, from KSL, who had that video tweeted out from the press conference. I was on the press conference. I couldn't figure out how to grab the video afterwards. So I did go get it from him, and I much appreciate that. All right. Here's what Kalani Sitake said when he was asked point blank about the Penn State job. He said, quote, "I'm all about the Big 12 championship and keeping our team focused on that. We're going to avoid all of the distractions." So that was it. Didn't deny it. I mean, I think it's pretty clear by now. Like, you don't really need to read too far into what he said there. how he handled it today to understand like this is very real. This is a thing that is happening right now. It is it is taken away from a huge game and a huge opportunity for BYU this week, which sucks. And we could have a long conversation about the college football calendar or just the increased. It's not just the calendar. It's like the increased sense of urgency, how quickly everybody feels like things need to be done these days. All of that has contributed to this. Having said all of that, Penn State is also way behind the eight ball here. I mean, you saw how fast everybody in the SEC moved on their coaches once Lane Kiffin decided where he was going to go. The narrative right now is that Penn State has just moved horribly slow. But that's really where things stand right now. There was a little bit more here from Liam, I think, about Penn State's offer. He says a lot can change in a day. I said BYU was going to try everything they could. Sitake met with the widow of Lavelle Edwards. He went to church and met with one of the 12 apostles. BYU did everything they could to make this happen. We will see if it worked. He says, admittedly, I no longer know what's going to happen. BYU sources believe they got Sitake and an extension is in place. He's meeting with the team shortly. And then Penn State sources believe they got Sitake. So there's that. It sounds like Jeff Brom at Louisville, who would be the next target for Penn State if they were not able to get Kalani Sitake. Here is the offer. This is what I was looking for. This is the supposed offer. Again, this is according to Liam Blutman from Barstool Sports, who has been very, very good on the coaching carousel this year. He's definitely got my attention. You can take or leave what you want to believe, but I'm just telling you, he's been really good. The Penn State offer he heard was $11.5 million per for 6 years. So again, that is almost quadrupling Kalani Sitake's salary. I don't know if BYU would go all the way up to that. I don't know if that's really what it's about so much for Sitake as it would be about NIL and coaching salaries. But I will once again come back to one of the things about having more money from the TV contract, I guess potentially private capital, if that's ever going to come back onto the table for the Big Ten, is you've got a lot more cash to be able to dole out for your rev share, for your NIL spend, and for your assistants, for staff, and even not just direct assistant coaching staff, but support staff, analysts, your media team, game day atmosphere, lots of little things that can make tiny bits of difference too. I know a lot of places in the Big 12, that's where they can feel really pretty pinched right now based on rev share now being something that they have to account for in their budget. So that's the type of thing that could also matter when you're considering a Penn State offer versus a BYU offer. Though, if there is a school outside of Texas Tech in the Big 12 that I think could be more well-positioned to step up and handle some of that, I do believe it's BYU. But that is where some of this gets into, I fully understand that BYU has a different mission as an institution based on the relationship with the LDS Church than most universities do with their football program. So it may not be all about just like, hey, what does this mean to our football program? There might be other factors in play here. Maybe because of that, there would be some limiting factors with money that otherwise wouldn't be there. Because I think if it just came down to having donors with the money or people with the money, it seems like BYU would have that in spades. But that's a whole area of this that I don't know enough to talk about. So all I can give you is the football element of this. And I would just say the football element of this is you better be going all in on every single possible thing you can do to make this happen from a football standpoint, because I just think Kalani Sitake is a perfect ambassador for the program. He is the perfect guy to be leading this program, to be the face of it. And he just so happens to be an elite football coach as well. He's the total package. He's everything you want. He's a perfect marriage at BYU. The program has, at least in my lifetime, never been hotter. It has never been a sexier, cooler time to be at BYU. You got Rider Lions, a top 25 recruiting class coming in, the Big 12 championship. There is so much momentum right now. This is the absolute last possible time that you would want that to be stymied by losing a coach to the Big Ten. So I think it's worth every penny. even beyond that, then it's like, all right, well, what's the fallout from that? Who is available right now after all these coaches have been hired? What does like a pool of candidates look like of, people who would have the LDS connection? If that's going to be a huge part of the hiring process, what does that pool look like? If Jay Hill is the guy that people would really want to be the replacement, if Kalani Sitake gets hired, like what is the risk that he takes a bunch of money to go to Penn State and be the defensive coordinator? Or, people have been running wild with rumors, like Utah fans I was seeing earlier today talking about Jay Hill coming to Utah. Like, look, man, I don't know. Everyone wants to this is the type of story with tentacles that is going to make everybody crazy and have a whole bunch of stuff flying around there. I don't know what's real and what's not. But that's not a position you'd want to be in. I think BYU pulled it off very well in basketball when they lost Mark Pope. And there was a panic moment from the fan base, it seemed, when Pope, it became clear, was going to go to Kentucky. That turned out, I think BYU upgraded, frankly, with Kevin Young as the men's basketball coach. And I have said that from the jump on that. I don't see who the obvious candidate out there that's going to be an upgrade from a guy who went 22-3 the last 2 years is going to be as your football coach. I don't know that you can pull that off twice. I don't know that would happen here. So I would be very, very concerned about this if I were a BYU fan. Now, BYU fans, my guy Michael says, my bet BYU steps up and we keep him. Hashtag Sarces. All right. Michael says he's got some Sarces. So there you go. If that makes you feel any better, BYU fans, Michael, I appreciate it. Thank you for weighing in and letting everybody know. David, well, at least TCU qualifies for the toilet bowl. Hey, it'll be a better bowl than that. TCU finished 8-4. David, I wrote in the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter earlier today, ofbnews.com to get subscribed. I wrote about that I was very surprised Sonny kept that thing on the rails to get to 8-4 as opposed to 6-6. That's definitely an accomplishment. It's easy for seasons to fall apart when you're not going to achieve your ultimate goal, which for that TCU fan or TCU team rather was obviously getting to the Big 12 championship game. It's an interesting dichotomy there. Sonny Dykes will tell you, hey, I've won, 35 games in 4 years, almost 9 games a season. And then TCU fans can fire back, well, you're only 1 game over 500 in the Big 12 the last 3. It's an interesting debate with what you do there with Sonny Dykes. Michael also says, obviously, if Kalani leaves, we take Andy Reid. Well, hey, listen, I'm in Kansas City. I'm a diehard Chiefs fan, have been my entire life. There are some Chiefs fans that might want to just let BYU have him right now. That's crazy, I understand, but there's some discontent with the Chiefs right now. So I don't know. Maybe that works out, Michael. Maybe that's a nice landing spot, little end of career landing spot for Andy Reid. I'm not legitimately saying that. People don't run with that. Hey, tons of people in here from Twitter. You may not be subscribed to the YouTube channel. If you want more of this throughout the week, make sure you head over to Open for Business on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. You're going to get Big 12 football live streams like this every week. College football from a Big 12 perspective. If you are outside of Big 12 country, always talking about the general state of the game from a Big 12 perspective. We would love to have you here. Subscribing really helps. Great way to support the channel. Liking the video does as well. And Twitter folks, I know that you love to read your news. ofbnews.com. That's ofbnews.com to subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. Let's see. John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo. If you want to drop me your version of a super chat there, I will read your question or comment to kick off the next show. Dakota, I will get to on that front your chat tomorrow because it relates to the playoff rankings, and we're going to get playoff rankings tomorrow. This is just, if you're a BYU fan, I understand this is a stressful time because like today, everybody freaking out and reacting to the Kalani Sitake story and that news. Tomorrow, unfortunately, I think you're going to get playoff rankings that are not going to make you happy. And then the thought is going to be, well, now we got to freak out about, are we getting in or not? And then, we're 2 touchdown underdogs on Saturday. It's like every day this week, a new thing to freak out about. But hey, Kalani Sitake is right. These are better problems to have than problems of, like, we had disgruntled TCU fan earlier. Everybody in K-State country right now, the 6-6 football team is not happy at all and at each other's throats. There are worse situations to be in, my Cougar friends. But as I mentioned earlier, I am certainly pulling for Kalani Sitake to stay in Provo. I will be kind of heartbroken myself if Sitake were to leave. So I'll keep you updated. Obviously, follow the channel, subscribe to Open for Business, the Big 12 newsletter at ofbnews.com to be in touch with all of the latest. And follow me on Twitter at JLKurtz. Obviously, you can get more up-to-the-minute updates there. So thank you, guys. Appreciate you making some time. I got to go watch some K-State basketball, all right? We got some Bowling Green ass to kick, Take that, Bowling Green. I say that. I don't know. Maybe they're losing. I have no idea. Bracket Cat, don't tell me what's happening. I'll start the game from the beginning. Appreciate all of you guys. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.